All right. So, continuing on for the last part here is to set up your payroll taxes. Now, unfortunately, without the subscription, you would have to manually be able to set up your payroll taxes, as in setting up who you need to pay, when you need to pay, and how often you need to pay is going to be something you set up through the wizard. Okay, so unfortunately, since we're not doing the wizard, you do have to manually set this up. Now, even for this example, right, we're setting this up as a manual payroll, or if you choose to outsource your payroll, you would still have to do this manually anyway. You're gonna have to make payments to these individuals for certain things. So, for example, the 940 and the 941s, which is your federal income tax withholdings, as well as your social Social Security and Medicare, right? You are going to make a payment to the the federal tax payment system, okay? Also known as EFTPS, okay? Electronic Federal Tax Payment System, okay? This is their version of a way that they are going to be collecting money from you, okay? So there is an actual website that you go to, and you make payments through them via online. So you are going to be making an electronics funds transfer. Yes, we're living in the digital age where you're not going to write a manual check for $1,000 and send it to the IRS. No, everything is done manually and everything is done virtually online. So that's why it's very important that you do know this and that you have to add these vendors, because when you make payments, since you're not using the payroll subscription actually does all of this for you, right? It keeps a track record of all of your employees, it collects all the tax money for you, and so on and so forth. But because we're going to be doing this manually, as we process out each and every individual's paycheck, right? We are generating our own version or our own list of federal taxes that we are subjected to have to pay. So we're going to have to manually calculate what we pay and who we pay and when we pay, right? But again, it's pretty straightforward, right? You just take the account, you look it up in your chart of accounts and see what the account balance is, and you just make a payment off of that balance, and it should just take it off immediately, okay? But that is just what we're going to be doing here, is setting up those different types of functions, okay? So in this case, for the federal, right, we use the EFTPS, okay? And of course, for the state, you're gonna, since in this case we are not quite sure, every state will have a different form of means to collect their state unemployment or whatever state disability or whatever it is that you're making the payment to the state. So for us, we do pay state unemployment. And so therefore, we are going to be needing to find out what agency that you're going to make a payment to. So in this case, we'll just go ahead and use the EDD, which is the Employment Development Department, which is actually known in California, okay? In Nevada, it's going to be something else, but that is one of them, okay? So making sure that you are making those payments. Now, for any other agencies, so like I've mentioned earlier, right? If you're going to be using Merrill Lynch to keep track of your retirement benefit plans, okay? Then you're going to make a check to Merrill Lynch, right? If you're going to be having Blue Shield or Blue Anthem, Anthem Blue, whatever you want to call it, whatever insurance company that you're paying for to have insurance covered, health insurance or vision, dental, whatever type of insurance that you're providing, you need to make an account, or you need to create a vendor account for those individuals. So again, if you need a workers' compensation, that's why there's a section for workers' compensation. If you do not know who you need to pay, because every state is going to have a specific law requirement for the workers' compensation, so there's a center for that. But in this case, since we're not using the payroll system, you're going to have to manually enter in the vendor as well. So if it's Genesis that you're using for workers' compensation to handle your workers' compensation, then you're going to be writing a check to them. Okay, so for now, I just want to let you guys know that for the more common ones, the one that were more obvious that you will definitely, absolutely will need, will be the federal one, which is the one that's mandated by all states to file, and of course, your state, which in this case, we're going to go ahead and do the EDD. So for this one, we're just going to add our vendors into our system here, so we have them readily available to make payments to them, okay? Which tomorrow, right, for chapter 14, I'm going to walk you through how to do manual payroll systems. Because in your book, if you decide to just follow through with the payroll subscription, it's just only 2 clicks of a button, okay? 2 clicks of a button. You don't need to do anything, but I want to show you how labor intensive it is to process one person's paycheck, okay? Because, again, this is why people would rather use the subscription, and that would also give you the reason why it's better to also maybe potentially outsource, because Intuit can be pricey if you don't, if you're calculating it on it. It's asking for $75 a month for just the basic core. $75 a month, right? And that doesn't even include direct deposit, where if you go up one more, I believe it's $95 a month or 100 something, right? So if you want all of those features to be included, right, it would just only facilitate and make things much more easier for you. But again, it only takes 2 clicks of a button. So that's definitely something you can read on your own if you choose to use the option to pay for the subscription, right? But remember, it's only a 30-day trial. You can only do it within 30 days. Once that 30 days up, you can't go back and redo that lesson again and again and again. So you want to be careful with that, okay? So let's go ahead and add our vendors. So we know this from chapter 4, okay? How do I add a vendor? Well, you have a couple choices here, right? Or actually, you only have one choice. Sorry, excuse me. You're going to go to your expenses tab, okay, on the left navigation bar. And if you choose to click on it and then click onto the vendor center, that's up to you. But you can also have your mouse on there and it will pop up another way that you can access the vendor center, okay? And of course, as standard as usual, all you need to do is go to the top right and click on new vendor, and we're going to fill in the company name. So in this case, this is going to be the electronic federal payment, tax, EFTPS, okay, tax payment system. Okay, if you want to make it short and sweet and simple, you could just put ETPS. So I could just say EFTPS, okay? Short and sweet and simple. So first name, there's no real first name here. It's just the company name. Now, what I do recommend you to do is for the notes down below, right? You definitely want to put in your credentials or put in the website information or definitely put your account number, okay? Because once again, everything is done digitally. So you want to make sure that you put in at least your account number, because every company is going to have some kind of account number. It's going to be based off of your employer identification number, so EIN, if you remember from chapter 2, which is going to be a way that the federal agency or the federal system recognizes you as an individual company, okay? So it's usually 2 digits, then 7 digits, okay? That will be your account number, right? Usually. So once again, making sure that you do fill that information. But as far as that, we just need to put this in there so that we can make a payment to them. you're not going to ever bill or you're not going to ever forward a check to the federal, the EFTPS, okay? So there's no need for an address, okay? All right, so EFTPS. So this is the person that we're going to, if you want to also make a note here that you're going to make monthly payments, it is up to you, okay? So now that I have that in there, I'm going to add in my last one here, which is going to be the state unemployment, which we said was the employment development department, also known as the EDD. So I'm going to put EDD here. Okay, and again, it's another electronic funds transfer where you're literally going to go online and you're going to make payments to the state via virtually online. Now again, remember, this is completely different than your state taxes. Your state taxes, you already know you're going to make the payment to the Nevada Department of Taxation or whatever it was called, okay? 2, 3 different places that you're going to be sending money to those different local agencies and things like that, okay? Completely separate. This is payroll we're talking about, where it's all about employees and payments and things like that, okay? So now that we have these 2 accounts in there, right? So the next step we're going to do here is, which is going to be chapter 14, which is going to be go through the process of everything, right? Clock in those hours for those individuals. So we will take a look at how to process that, right? We already took a look at it in chapter 9, right? To enter time. So again, we're going to be reviewing that, right? Entering the time for each of your employees, okay? So here lists out who I have here. So we got, again, you got Katie Ropa, Ernest Withers, and then basically you're going to click on their profile and you're going to add in their timesheets. Now again, every single QuickBooks subscription has the ability to enter time. The only difference is this is a manual timesheet, okay? Now with the subscription, it takes the information from the timesheet and actually converts it into the payroll process, meaning it will process all the time entries in there to pay the employees appropriately for the time that they clocked in. Now, this is not the same thing as a clock in, clock out tower, right? You have to manually enter in your hours. So that's why it's important that you do review this, which we did in chapter 9, okay? Chapter 9, when we did the hours for Ernest, okay? So making sure that you do go over that, okay? But other than that, again, tomorrow we'll see how to process payroll manually, okay? So any questions for chapter 13? Okay. Any questions for chapter 13?
None for me.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and go over those review questions, multiple choice here, okay? So once again, select the best answers, okay? Select the best answers for each of the following. Number 1, an easy and convenient way to process payroll QuickBooks online for employees on a different payroll schedule would be
Would it be B?
D would be the correct answer. Yes, there is a payroll scheduler function on there. So again, you do set that up when you do your, once again, your setup wizard, where you have that section to designate the exact day that an employee needs to get paid, and then you set their payroll frequency. So in this case, we didn't have that opportunity, but we did make a note that they're going to get that this individual is going to get paid monthly, or this person's going to get paid bi-weekly, whatever it is, right? And that's going to, again, trigger the payroll scheduler to let you know when an employee needs to be paid. Right? Number 2, which of the following payroll periods is not an option in QuickBooks Online?
D.
D as in dog, quarterly. Yes. Yes, you could pay them every week. Yes, you could pay them every other week, or you could pay them twice a month. We already talked about that. That's weekly, bi-weekly, and semi-monthly. I would think it's very difficult to pay somebody every 3 months. So yes. These are just more common ones. Again, there's other ones that you can select too. I believe you could select daily, but that's going to be an other payment frequency option. But yes, these are the 3 common ones. So D is definitely the correct answer, that this one does not exist. Number 3, okay, which payroll item cannot be created in Payroll Setup Wizard? Okay, which one cannot be created is the question.
Will it be commissions?
Oh, yes, you can definitely set that up. That's considered a compensation.
Okay.
Right? If your employee can earn wages based on commissions, right? 10% or 40% of their sales, that is definitely, yes, you can do that.
Is it bonuses?
Bonuses, for sure, you can definitely have an employee. You can definitely set up compensations. That's a compensation.
Okay, so what I can see the D, you can create all items above during the payroll setup, was it?
100% correct. Yes, you can, right? So the options, again, if you were in the PowerPoint, I said that you could set up these 4 criterias, right? 1 is your compensation. 2 is going to be your benefits and deductions. 3 is your federal taxes. 4 is your state taxes. Okay? All right. So in this case, yes, all of these 3 are it. You are able to set them up. Right. Number 4. Okay, which is not an option when setting the actual period for sick and vacation time. So again, you have to do your reading for this.
Would that be A?
The beginning of the year for sick and vacation pay. In this case, what it's determining here is not an option. Yes, you can reset your actual period for sick and vacation pay at the beginning of the year. Usually that's something that most companies do. So that is definitely not an option in terms of not an answer. Sorry. I meant yes, it's an option, but it is not the answer, because you can set that up as one of your criteria for your companies, right? That we're going to set up the payroll or the sick and vacation to start at the very beginning of the year.
Would it be D?
D
I'm gonna say B.
B is going to be the correct answer, because you're not going to reset it every single month. That would be ridiculous, right? Yes, you can set it for per hour worked. So again, so some companies say that if you work a 40-hour period, you earn 2 hours of vacation, right? So yes, you can set it up as that way. Each pay period, yes. So again, that can also be determined same thing as D, where you are determining, okay, so each pay period, how many hours did you accrue? So in this case, B is definitely not going to be the answer. You're not going to reset it every single month. Okay. B, okay, the payroll setup wizard will not allow you to. Yes. Question?
Rosita
Yes.
is trying to get your attention.
Yes.
She says she can't hear you.
All right. So let's see. Number 5, the payroll setup wizard will not allow you to. What would it not allow you to do?
It's going to be letter D.
It will not allow you to enter in an employee with the same name. So again, that's why it's very, very important that you do understand that QuickBooks is a data entry based type of system, right? Where you're entering in information, and what it does is it creates an algorithm to be able to populate that name. If you type in the first 2 letters, it should populate that name. Now, for this case, because it's not going to take all the information to be able to search that person up, right? It only takes the display name. So that's why it's very crucial, because again, the amount of ability a program can be able to do a certain function, it's only using the display name to be able to search that profile for you. So that's why it's very important that you know the difference between a vendor name and a display name versus a customer name versus a display name. Display name is what the QuickBooks is using to search those up things for you. So you cannot have an employee with the same exact name. There needs to be an alteration, such as a middle initial. Now, what happens if you have John S. Smith and John S. Smith Jr., right? You're going to have to make a differentiation between the two, right? Maybe one of John, it could be John S. Smith number 1, right? Or John S. Smith Jr. or Senior, or the third, right? There has to be something that can be different between the two. It's not going to use the social security number or anything other to look up that person on QuickBooks. You have to make a variation between the display name. So whether it's putting the whole entire middle name in there, that could be the best thing that you can do, right? Or father and son, right? You have junior and senior, or you have number 1 and number 2, right? As bad as it sounds, right? That is the system that we're using. Now, the chances of having somebody that's employed to have the same exact name is probably, I would say it's probably a very low rate. It's probably like maybe in like 10% or even 20% that you'll find somebody in the same exact company as you, unless you work for Walmart, right? A big corporation who has billions of employees. Of course, someone is going to have the same exact name because they're working for Walmart Corporation, not Walmart down the street. So in this case, that could be something that you'll have a higher chance of running into, but for smaller businesses, probably most likely not. So in this case, that is the correct answer. D, you are not able to add an employee with the same exact name. There needs to be some kind of alteration between the display name. Okay. Number 6, all right? You entered the federal ID for your company. Where is asking?
The answer is D.
D, A, and C. A is in the payroll settings under the gear. Yes, but we don't have that payroll setting. So if you don't have that, then letter C, right, in the QuickBooks Online account and settings. So if you remember, that was the first thing when you go to the gear icon account settings. it should be the very first tab, company, and it tells you to put your employee identification number, which is also known as your tax ID number. Okay? So, yes, you'll have two places to put it, but if you don't have the payroll setup, which is going to be in your gear icon, like I mentioned, on the far right side is going to be the fifth option down, then you'll have letter C to be your answer there. Okay? Number 7, use a payroll deduction item to track medical insurance cost when
Would it be A?
A is correct. When an employee pays part or all of the cost. So again, you're going to be using it. Remember, it's a deduction because it comes off the paycheck, right? So if you're going to have your employee pay a portion of their medical insurance or all of the cost for their medical insurance, then that's what you're going to use, right? Then you're going to use it as a deduction because it comes off their paycheck. Okay? So that is correct. Number 8, which of the following would QuickBooks Online exclude from taxable earnings when calculating federal withholdings?
D?
Let's see. For number 8, D is correct. Employee contributions to 401k. Yes. Again, usually 401k, remember, if I guess not remember, but tomorrow when we talk about this, usually employee benefits and deductions are taken before taxes. So that means the Federal Contribution Act does not calculate that including in there because it's already taken out from the check to begin with. So you're not going to get taxed for a 401k plan. Right? But then again, there are different surroundings when it comes to taking your 401k out. Okay. Number 9, why are there 2 health insurances and 2 retirement categories in accounting preferences? Why?
That would be B.
Okay, you use separate accounts because you must write separate checks for employee and employer portions. Not necessarily. Again, if you are going to pay for your federal taxes for, the 940 or the 941s, you could just put everything in there. So both employer and employee. So you don't have to separate. You would separate the accounts, but you wouldn't necessarily separate 2 separate checks for that. You could just combine them all into one. D, you maintain separate ledger accounts for the 2 portions of each tax. You maintain separate ledger accounts for the 2 portions of each tax.
Well, what you had said before, you said B, but C right there says QuickBooks Online manages the employee-employer portion separately.
Correct.
So then that would be the right answer, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. C would be the correct answer because it does, if you're using the payroll system, it separates it because when you do, tomorrow we'll take a look at it, when you're writing your employee's check, you have to have a separation because they're paying into their own taxes, right? You're not going to include your responsibility as an employer taxes on the employee's check. So that's why it has to be separate. Now in this case, B says that, but you're going to make a payment to them separately on a separate check. No, you don't have to necessarily do that. You can just pay them all in one check. So in this case, yes, C has to do that because, like I just mentioned, when you process an employee's check, you do not include the employer's responsibility to pay for that on. It's a separate transaction on its own. So again, one for the employee and one for the employer. Okay. All right, number 10. Which of the following is not a feature of QuickBooks Online Core Payroll? So I showed you the features list for what they include earlier.
What number are we on now?
We're on number 10.
Okay.
So which of the following is not a feature in the QuickBooks Core? So go refer to the PowerPoint, right? What does it not include?
Would it be D?
Calculates and electronically remits federal payroll tax liabilities. Now that means that they pay the federal tax automatically. Is that true? No, you still have to
No.
manually do that yourself. So D is not the correct answer.
I imagine it's A.
Calculate gross pay by hour worked or salaries. Yes, that is the very first function of QuickBooks Online Core. So no, we're looking for that's not a feature.
That's not one.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the first thing you do, right? That's the first thing that all of the subscriptions do, because that's what you're paying the subscription for, is to process the gross pay and so on and so forth.
Well, already we said it's not A, C, or D, so it's got to be B.
I never said it was not C.
Oh, because it says, but it says it's on there.
We've only answered D and A so far.
You are so right. It is C.
Awesome. Okay, so again, so if you actually look up that PowerPoint that I showed you and actually click on that link, so one of the features is, unfortunately, that is a feature for the premium one. You get a professional accountant to set up the payroll for you, and you have the ability to have that professional tax agent do and manually help you process your payroll for you. So in this case, this is a feature for a different subscription. It's asking for just the core subscription. Okay, so that's why letter C would be the correct answer, because in this case, it doesn't give you that option, right? The bare minimum for core is to help you process for payroll, right? Actually calculate your gross pay and calculate your calculations there. It helps you manage your 1099 workers, and I believe it helps you print out your checks for you. Okay, but that's the bare minimum of the core subscription. As you go up in there, you have the QuickBooks Time feature available. You have the direct deposit available. You have the ability to set up your filing taxes with a professional tax agency to get you more accuracy. So in this case, this is just a different feature that that you're answering here. So in this case, for core, you only have the very basic fundamentals. Okay. Number 11, QuickBooks Online uses payroll items to, split question here. Tommy, I don't know if that's you or not, but we can hear everything in the background.
All right.
All right. Number 11. Question is QuickBooks Online uses the payroll items to.
It's going to be D.
D is correct. All of the above, right? You're going to use it to help you accurately do the payroll liabilities, right? So again, if you look at that little section there, what the payroll items do is it lists out all your liabilities. Okay, and then of course it also tracks each and every different types of compensations. Yes, that was the first. That was the one of the four things, right? There's four things that you need to set up for payroll items, and compensations is one of them. And of course, it defines all relationships between items that you put on your paycheck. So yes, so it's also one of those things that you're gonna itemize on your paycheck, so then your employee knows what is taken out of their paycheck. Yes. Okay. All right, number 12. If you no longer want an employee to show in your employee center, what do you do?
That would be C.
C, you got to change the employment status by plugging in that release date in there. Okay. If you inactivate their account, or yeah, in this case, if you inactivate it, you're just only hiding them. Okay, so make sure you are aware of the difference between that. Okay, you need to actually put that release date on there. Number 13. Which is not true about auto payroll? So yes, you do have a feature that you can automatically have payroll processed for you. So which one is not true about it?
That would be A.
A, right? It takes payroll out of your control. No, it doesn't, because you also have the ability to override that auto. So for instance, let's say you have an employee that is, or for instance, they're salary-based earning, right? Their check is going to be the same every single month. But what if they decided to take some vacation pay, and you need to account for that? Yes, you can have it set as automatic payroll, where they're processing the payroll every single month because that person's getting the same check every single month. But you also have the ability to go back into it, override it, and put in the vacation hours that that person needs, even though the check is still going to be the same. So that's an example of why you would outsource to go to auto payroll, because if you have those salary-based earning individuals that are getting a constant check every single time, then instead of having to go through that process where you have to enter in everything for them manually, even though their check is all the same, everything's the same, that is one of the features why you would use auto payroll. Okay? Number 14, last question of the day. Okay, sick leave, vacation leave, and PTO are.
C.
Let's see. C says only accrued by the number of hours worked. I mean, in context, yes, that is true, but again, that's not what this question is asking. It's asking. See, this is also one of those things. What do they typically do for the company? Is what it's asking.
It's going to be D.
It's going to be D, right? It's going to be completely flexible according to your company's policy, right? So in this case, this is the question where it is, what do you call it, shorthanded or open-ended, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of the questions isn't complete, but that is what it's looking for, right? It's not looking on how people obtain the sick vacation and leave and PTO. Okay? All right, good job, everybody. So